Welcome to my channel, James Tutorial. Students, I hope all of you are fine by the grace of Lord Almighty. After a week, I am back again with a very interesting topic. And in grammar, perhaps we consider this is one of the most valuable topic which we should learn by heart. We should learn it with very much care. We should learn it with a great importance, because in English grammar we can't miss this topic. And this is what? And this is voice. We have heard so much about voice. Today I am going to teach you voice in a very simple way with so many examples depending on the tense, how it changes on the different tenses. And I hope that you will learn it in such a way that in the next days to come you will remember this and you will implement this very well in English grammar. So let's start. When we speak about voice, when we see the definition, we started like this: the voice is the form of the verb which shows whether the subject does the work or acts or is acted upon. Here it is written, you see, it is the form of the verb which shows whether the subject does the work. First of all, you have to think about the subject in the sentence. So subject here does the work, or subject here acts, or the subject is acted upon. So this is all about voice. As you all know, there are two kinds of voice: active voice and passive voice. Active voice, here what happens in active voice? The subject itself does the work. So in active voice, the subject itself does the work, that is, the subject acts. And the subject is the doer or the actor. We say the subject is the doer or actor because here the subject directly acts. For example, if I say, I write a letter. So from this sentence, it is very much clear that I, myself, is the subject and I am writing a letter, which shows that the work is done here by the subject. So the subject here is the doer who is doing the work. So it's clear. Whereas in the passive voice, what happens? The subject does not do the work. Here the subject does not do the work, that is, the subject is acted upon. The subject here is acted upon. The subject is not the doer. You have to be very careful in the passive voice. You should learn it that the subject here in the passive voice is not the doer but the receiver. Subject here is not the doer but the receiver of the result of the action. So there will be a result of the action which is done in the active voice, and here the subject will be the receiver of that result. So now I think it's clear. Now there are some rules for changing active into passive, because sometimes the sentences are written in the active voice, but in most of the cases we use the passive voice. So you have to learn how to change from active into passive, because this is very important. And if you learn with examples, keeping in mind about the tenses, the formulas of the tenses that I taught you, the 12 formulas, I will show you how those 12 formulas here again have a vital role to play. in each of the sentences, those formula again will come, and you will see the changes that will happen from active to passive. There, the formula will play a very significant role. So now I tell you what is the changes that you should have to be very, very careful in making the changes from active into passive. The first of all is that the object of the verb in the active voice, object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. So object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. This is the very first change that happens when you do the necessary change from active into passive. So object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. The second is the subject of the verb. Here the subject of the verb in the active voice becomes the object in the passive voice and is generally preceded by the preposition by. You have to be very sure about this, that it is a preposition which is by, that is preceded by the preposition when we do the necessary change or any of its substitute. Most of the times we do use the preposition by, but there are some sentences which we have to change from active to passive where we need the help of the preposition, for example, with, at, to. These are some of the prepositions that again will be very effective. So I tell you, you have to be very sure about using the required or the necessary preposition. The third one is the main verb in the active voice is changed. The main verb in the active voice that is changed into the past participle form. You have to be very sure about it, that when we learn voice, we use this past participle form every time, because we cannot use the present form, we cannot use the past form. We have to use the past participle form when we change from active to passive, and that is only one thing that you should remember always. So the main verb in the active voice is changed into the past participle form and is preceded by the correct form of the verb to be. This is one of the important aspects here. You have to use the correct form of the verb to be in the passive voice. So the third point is clear to you. Now I come to the fourth point. If there are verbs with two objects, sometimes there are verbs with two objects, either of the objects, preferably the personal object, can be changed into the subject and the other is written as an object. So what we do when we get two objects, we change this first one and we keep the other one, and we say that is a retained object. That object which we do not change is known as the retained object, and the personal object is preferably changed here. Now I come to the fifth point. The tense must remain unchanged. Students, you have to be very sure that we have to see the sentence and think about the tense, and remember always the tense must remain unchanged. And the last is that double passives should be avoided. Sometimes double passive are used. Okay, sometimes we do have to use, but you see, in most of the times we try to avoid the double passive in a simple sentence or in a single clause, because it is liable to give a wrong meaning. When we use double passive, it gives a wrong meaning. But in changing the voice of complex sentences, when we do have to change the voice of complex sentences, the voices of both the principal and subordinate clauses. The very important thing is here, the voice of both the principal and subordinate clauses should be changed if both of them have transitive verbs. This is the very important point here. If both of them have transitive verbs, so the voices of both the principal and subordinate clauses should be changed in the complex sentences if both of them have transitive verbs. Now, you see, I just take an example here, how to change. Now, I told you everything about the necessary changes that takes places. Now, I will tell you a sentence. Here I take a sentence. It's a very simple one, you see. And I will show you how this active voice is changed into passive. The sentence is, Rakesh did the work. Rakesh did the work. Here, Rakesh is the subject. Did is the active verb here in the past form, and the work is the object here. So again you come to the points here, the rules, where the rules are written. You see, the first point, object of the verb in the active voice. This is the object of the verb in the active voice. The case did the work. This is in active voice. So the object of the verb in the active voice, this becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. So in the passive voice, the work is the subject. So this becomes the subject. So the first point that is mentioned here is now clear. Object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject of the verb in the passive voice. Second point is the subject of the verb in the active voice. Now the subject of the verb, that is Rakesh, in the active voice, this becomes the object in the passive voice. This becomes the object in the passive voice and is generally preceded by the preposition by. You see, it is written by is written here. So in the second rule, it is written, it is generally preceded by the preposition by or any other subject, but here you have to use by. So the work did comes from the main verb do, and it is the past form of the verb do. So the past participle form of that verb do is do, did, done. Done is the past participle form, and here in the third point you see the main verb in the active voice is changed into the past participle form. So that verb, main verb, is changed in the past participle form. So it is done. So here you see it is written done and is preceded by the correct form of the verb to be. And it is preceded, this past participle form is preceded by the correct form. And that correct form of the verb to be, here we know the auxiliary verbs am, is, are. The past form is was and were. So here it is in the single form. So we have to use was. So the work was done by Rakesh, and this is in the passive voice. So I think now it is clear to you how to make the necessary change. Here, from this example, I can tell you if here in the active voice, if the sentence or the verb instead of did, if it is does, Rakesh does the work, it can be, then the verb here in the active voice is in the present tense. So what will be the necessary change in the passive voice? The word that will remain the same because we haven't changed the object in the active voice. So this object will be the same. Here it becomes the subject in the passive voice. Here what I have told you, that is does. So what is the necessary change? Do is the main verb, did in the past form, and done is the in the past participle form. So you have to use done. But if the verb is here does, so the correct form of the be verb should be is done. So the sentence then will be the work is done by Rakesh. I think it is clear to you. So here if it is does, then it will be is. Now I think it is clear to you. Rakesh did the work in the active voice. It changes to the work was done by Rakesh in the passive voice. And if it's Rakesh does the work, if this is in the active voice, if we want to change this into active, we have to say the work is done by Rakesh. So this is how we do the necessary change. And now I will show you how we use this, how we apply these changes in the context of different tense. Okay, so just keep on watching. Now I will explain some sentences and will show you the necessary changes that takes place when we change the sentence from active to passive. Here I have written some sentences according to the tenses. I have started with present indefinite tense, past indefinite, future indefinite, then present continuous. I will go like this. And also I have written the formula that I taught you, and I told you to remember these 12 formulas, because these are very important formulas from which many sentences can be made. So here the formula in the active voice in the present indefinite tense is subject plus main verb plus object, and in the passive voice we write the formula as subject plus immediately we write am, is, are plus past participle form of main verb. In short we can write pp of main verb plus by plus object. So this is the formula that is derived in the passive voice in the present indefinite tense. Now I come to the sentence. Here the active voice is how life inspires us. So how life inspires us. So us is the objective, that will become the subject. So we becomes the subject here. Just I draw the line here so that you can understand. So this is the change that is happening here. We are, immediately you look at the formula and you place it accordingly. We are, the main verb here is inspired. So it will be inspired, 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 inspired. Inspired then by whom? By her life. We are inspired by her life. So this is the sentence in the passive voice. Next is Mahendra likes apples very much. Mahendra likes apples very much. So apples is the object here. That will be the subject. So you write, start with apples. So immediately you look at the formula. So apples is in the plural form. So you have to place are. And here the main verb is like, liked, liked. Apples are liked. Here it is very much. So you have to write very much. Very much by Mahendra. Apples are liked very much by Mahendra. Now I come to the third sentence. I see a nightingale bird. A nightingale bird. Make sure if there is an article before the object in the active voice, so that object will change and become the subject in the passive voice, and that article is to be written there. You can't miss this article, or you can't omit this article. Here it is a right angle word, so you have to keep writing with a. Sometimes the students do make this simple mistake. This is not a very big mistake, but it's a small mistake, but you have to avoid this. Okay, so you have to avoid making this mistake. Make sure that it is a nightingale bird, so you have to write here a nightingale bird, a nightingale bird, a nightingale bird. Then here is the main verb. Here is see, saw, seen by whom? By me. I changes and becomes me. A nightingale bird is seen by me. I think it is getting clear to you, and as it will progress, it will become even much more clear. Okay, now I come to the next tense, that is past indefinite tense. In the past indefinite tense, you see here in the active voice, the formula is subject plus past form, the main verb plus object. And when you this is the formula, and when you write the formula in the passive voice, what happens? It becomes subject plus was or were. Then past participle form, main verb, always PP of MV. It's very important. You will see PP of MV everywhere in the active voice. Okay, plus by plus object. So this is the formula that is derived in the present indefinite tense in the passive voice. Okay, now I come to the first example. My sister baked a cake. My sister baked a cake. So a cake here is an object that will become the subject here. So you have to write a cake. A cake was or were should be immediately placed. So we have to write was, because it is a cake in singular form. A cake was baked is already written here. So the main verb here is bake, baked. So in the past participle form it is baked. So you have to write here baked by whom? My sister. Finished. A cake was baked by my sister. Now the girls bought dolls and teddy bears. The girls bought dolls and teddy bears. So dolls and teddy bears as a whole is the object here. That will become the subject in the passive voice. So you write dolls and teddy bears. Dolls and teddy bears. Again, where. So bought is already there. So buy is the main verb. Buy, bought in the past participle form. It is bought. Where bought. By whom? By the girls. Dolls and teddy bears were bought by the girls. Every time you look at the formula, your sentence will be automatically done. So make sure that you keep in mind the formula. The teacher helped me. Okay, the teacher helped me. So me here is the object, that will become the subject. Me becomes I. Then immediately was. Helped is already there. So help is the main verb. Helped. I was helped. This is the past participle form of the verb help. I was helped by whom? By the teacher. I was helped by the teacher. I think it's pretty clear to all of you. Okay, now I will come to the future indefinite tense. The first of all is the formula here. In the active voice, the formula is subject plus shall or will plus main verb plus object. And here what will the formula in the passive voice will be subject plus shall or will plus be. We call it mandatory be plus past participle form of main verb plus by plus object. So this is the formula that takes place here in the passive voice in the future indefinite tense. Subject plus shall or will plus be plus past participle form main verb plus by plus object. Now it comes to the sentence in the active voice. It's written, this girl will pluck a flower. The girl will pluck a flower. Here you see flower is the object here, but it's preceded by an article a. So you can't omit that one. Okay, a should be written. A flower. A flower. Then either shall or will. So a flower, we use shall with I and we only, and for the remaining we use will. So a flower we will use will, a flower will, then this mandatory be will be. Then you see it is written, the main verb is plucked, plucked, will be plucked by whom? By the girl. A flower will be plucked by the girl. I think it's clear. Now I come to the second sentence. I shall buy a car. I shall buy a car. A car is the object here, that will become the subject here. A car again will be, will, then be. Here the main verb is by, bought. Bought is the past participle form of the verb by, so you have to write bought. By whom? By, I changes to me. A car will be bought by me. Next is the sentence in the interrogative form. It's an interrogative sentence. Shall we help the poor? So the poor is the object here, and in the interrogative form shall or will comes at the very beginning. So we have to start with the will. Will the poor be helped? Helped is the past participle form. Helped by us. Question mark. One thing just I want to tell you, that if your sentence in the active voice ends with a question mark, make sure that in the passive voice also your sentence should end with a question mark. So you can't change anything with regard to question mark, full stop or exclamation mark. That's very important here in voice. Okay, if your sentence ends with a full stop, it will end with a full stop only. If your sentence ends with a question mark in the active voice, in the passive voice, your sentence will end with a question mark only. So sometimes the students to make mistake here, we have noticed that the forget to use the signs, okay, the proper punctuation marks. So here I just want to repeat it once more. Here the sentence ends with a question mark in the active voice. Your sentence also ends with a question mark in the passive voice. And now in the present continuous tense, I come to the, so this indefinite part is almost finished. And now I come to the continuous. Here the formula, you see it's written subject plus answer plus main verb plus object. So here the formula is I just underlined it for you so that you can see the formula and see the structural pattern of the sentences, that it meets everything that is derived in the formula. Now I come to the formula here. The formula in the present continuous tense, subject plus am or is or are plus main verb plus ing plus, so main verb plus ing, actually the verb becomes a participle here. So main verb plus ing, okay, whatever verb it can be here, it is eat, so plus ing is added, it becomes eating. Okay, so this is what you have to just keep in mind. And the formula here that changes. So here the formula changes is what? Subject plus, as it is, am, is, are, plus. So again, it's very important. Previously you see there's mandatory be, and now here a mandatory being is added. Being plus past participle form of main verb plus by plus object. So what happens? The formula changes to subject plus am, is, are plus being plus past participle form of main verb plus by plus object. Now the sentence is children are eating chocolates. So chocolates is the object here, that will become the subject here. So chocolates immediately are, am, is, are, the three form that you can use. So for chocolates, as it's in the plural, so you have to use are, then immediately being, then the past participle main verb is eat, ate, eaten. Eaten by whom? By children. You see the sentence starts with children, so we have written children only, we haven't used the. Sometimes the students make a mistake by writing the children. If your sentence in the active verb starts with the children, then here in the passive voice you can write the children, otherwise not. In the second sentence I come, Silpa is singing a song. So a song is the object, that will become the subject. A song, then immediately is being. Sing is the main verb here. So sing, sang, sung. Sung in the past participle form. So we have to write sung is being sung by Shilpa. And the last one, are you writing a letter? In the interrogative form, are you writing a letter? So in the interrogative form, what happens? Like the previous one also, you have to start the sentence with either am, is, or are. So here it is are. So you have, but make sure that here the object is our letter. Our letter, that means is singular form. So we have to use is. Is our letter, then being, the write is the main verb, write, wrote, written, written by you. There is no change for you, you remains as you only in the passive voice. So the sentence is a letter being written by you. Now in the past continuous tense, here in the active voice the formula is subject plus either was or were plus main verb plus ing plus object. And in the passive voice, in the past continuous tense, it will be subject plus was, were, as it is. So you write subject plus was, were, plus. Here, I think you have remembered that being, that mandatory being was used, so you have to use that being here also. Being plus past participle form of main verb plus be plus object. So this is the structural pattern of the sentence in the passive voice in the past continuous tense, and so the sentence after the necessary changes will be in this pattern only. So this is the formula that you have to keep in mind, and all the sentences you will see that will be like the way I have written the formula for you. Okay, now I start with the first example. The first example is Suman was reading a storybook. Suman was reading a storybook. So storybook is the object here, that will become the subject here, and article I is there. So you have to start with a storybook, and now you look at the formula. A storybook in singular form, it will be was, then being will be placed, and read is the main verb. Read, read, read. The spelling remains the same, but the pronunciation changes. Being read by whom? By someone. Finished. A storybook was being read by someone. Next, boys were playing football. So the object here is football. So you have to start with football. Football. You have to place was, being. Here the main verb is play. So play, played, played. Played by boys. Sometimes the student write the boys. Here the sentence starts with the boys only. So we have no option to write the before boys. Make sure once again, and do remember that if the subject starts with no article, then here again the subject that is becoming an object here in the passive voice will contain no article, and if an article is used here, you have to place that article in the passive voice as well. Now I come to the last sentence here in the past continuous tense. Were the children throwing stones? In the interrogative form. So in the interrogative form we have to start the sentence with either was or were, but here it is stones. Stones in the plural form. So it will be were. Were stones, then being. Throw is the main verb here. So throw, threw, thrown. Thrown is the past participle form, so you have to use thrown. Thrown by the children. Here it is written the children, you have to write the children and the question mark. Were stones being thrown by the children? Now I come to the future continuous tense, and in future continuous tense I just make my own example here. I just make an own example here. They will be doing the hard work, maybe. Okay, they will be doing the hard work. Now you see here, this is the formula. I just underline it with a green pen so that you understand it well. Here is the formula again, and this is the formula to be written here in the future continuous tense in the passive voice. So the formula in the active voice is subject plus have or will plus be plus main verb plus ing plus object, and in the future continuous tense in the passive voice the formula will be subject plus shall or will, as it is subject plus shall or will plus be plus being, according to the way it is the way it stands actually. Be plus being, then again past participle form of main verb plus by plus object. So this is the structural pattern in the future continuous tense, but it is a complicated one, and after the necessary change from active to passive, you see what comes here. The sentence here is they will be doing the hard work. They will be doing the hard work. So the hard work is the object here, that will become the subject in the passive voice. Just I want to write the sentence for you so that you will understand it, why we do not use such type of sentences. The hard work. Okay, this object becomes the subject here. The hard work will, then followed by be, then again being, then do is the main verb, do, did, done. It will be done by them. The sentence is like this. But here you see, will be being. According to the formula, the sentence is written like this. You have to write, because the sentence after changing from active to passive voice is like this only. The hard work will be being done by them. Actually, this is very rarely used, and just we have to say that we avoid the change in the passive voice. Okay, so we avoid the change in the passive voice in future continuous tense. So simply we avoid the change in the passive voice. So this type of sentences are not written actually. So we just remind the students that in the future continuous tense and perfect continuous tense. Okay, so future continuous and perfect continuous tenses do not admit of passive voice expressions. Just you remember that future continuous tense and perfect continuous tenses, they actually do not admit of passive voice expression. Okay, so this is the first part video of voices, and with a whole lot of examples I end here the past continuous tense, and in my second part I will start with present perfect tense. Okay, in the second part I will start with present perfect tense. So till then you just go through this, you learn a lot, and you just try to make your own sentences by looking at the sentence in the active voice and the necessary changes that are done in the passive voice. So you keep on making your own sentences, try to see where the mistakes are done, okay, and try to avoid those mistakes, and you keep on looking these formulas and keep in mind, always try to keep in mind these formulas that I am written for you, because you see all the sentences, every word in the sentences do come under these formulas only. So this is the way of learning, and then you will be able to write 100% correct changes from active to passive. There will be no mistake. So I think this video will help you a lot. So my dear students, once again I do like to let you know that this is the first part of the voice video. So I will come to the second part. There will be a whole lot of examples you will see, and in my third part it will be a whole lot of very good examples, very complicated examples, and you will be really helped a lot looking at those videos as well. So those videos I will try to publish very soon, and till then you just try to follow these examples, try to learn these examples by heart, and when you study, make sure that you keep a copy in front of you, an exercise book in front of you. You write the sentences as I've told you in the active voice and try to make the changes. Try to make the changes. And once you learn how to make the changes, it will become very easy for all of you. I think the students will be really benefited a lot after watching the video from the very beginning till the end. Till then, I just want to remind you once again, those who haven't subscribed to my channel yet, there are lots of students, lots of teenagers, lots of people, lots of younger ones subscribing my channel. So I just want to inform you, those who haven't subscribed my channel yet, you subscribe my channel. It will be really helpful for you. I have another alternative channel. You can go to my description box and go to that channel as well. It's named Universal Tutorial. You will be really helped a lot looking at that channel as well. And if you too like this video, make sure that you share it, you press the like button, and try to make the most of it by sending me any sort of comment that you would like to send me. And if you want any sort of thing, just let me know. If you do want this type of something, any special topic, any special class, or any special video with regard to any grammatical maybe topic, or in terms of writing, I will come to the writing skill very soon. But make sure that if you want, you just let me know. So till then, take care. I will be back with you very soon. Bye bye.